All right, hey guys, here are the notes that we took today. Today's Friday, the 10th. In class, we talked on the board about parallel lines, and you told me that they had the exact same slope. So we're going to be using that information, as well as perpendicular lines. We found out the past couple of days have opposite reciprocal slopes. So opposite tells me I'm going to have one positive and one negative. And then reciprocal is that flipped fraction. So instead of like 3/2, I'll have 2/3. So we're going to have opposite reciprocal slopes, and we'll practice that. A couple other little reminders. Slope-intercept form looks like this guy right here. You should have that memorized, as well as point-slope form. We're going to be using both of those too. So I'm going to go pretty fast, so if you need to, go ahead and pause this. I just didn't want it to be too long for those of you that are just checking your work. So this is 4.3, 4.2 and 4.3 is what we're covering with parallel and perpendicular lines. I stole this from someone else, and theirs was in a different chapter. So for the first problem, we need to first make sure on each of these that when we solve it, we can easily tell what the slope is. And in order for us to do that, y has to be by itself. It needs to be in slope-intercept form to tell what that slope is. So we're going to make sure of that first. Then we're also going to make sure to try to figure out what information are they giving me, what pieces do they give me, and which form is that going to. Do they give me a slope and an intercept, or do they give me a point and a slope? So we'll have to decide that as well. So for number one, write an equation of the line that is parallel to the graph y equals 1/2 x plus 6, and whose y-intercept is -2. So if it's going to be parallel, y is already by itself, so it's going to have the same slope. So my slope is going to be 1/2. Then it tells me y-intercept is -2. So this gives me slope and intercept. I'm going to use slope-intercept form. Y equals m, which is 1/2, x plus b, so my y-intercept is -2, and I'm finished with that. So then same deal on this next one. Write the equation of the line that is parallel to this and whose y-intercept is 3. Y is already by itself, so I can easily tell my slope is -4. And if it's going to be parallel, my slope needs to be the exact same. And then the y-intercept is 3. So slope-intercept form, y equals -4x plus 3. The next one is a little goofy because I'm going to have to solve for y before I can figure out what my slope is, before I can do the rest of this. So solving for y on this guy, I have 3x minus y equals 5. I need to move my x first. I'm trying to get y isolated. So I have -y equals -3x plus 5, because that's a positive 5 there. Now I want a positive y, so I'm either going to multiply or divide everything by -1. And all that does is it flips every single one of my signs. So there's the equation that we're going to use here. So if it's parallel, it needs the same slope. My slope is 3. So my slope on this guy is going to be 3. Next, it tells me the y-intercept is at 0, -7. So let's imagine we have a graph here. And I'm going to plot a point at 0, -7. I'm not going anywhere on the x. I'm just going down 7 on the y. So that right there is telling you what your y-intercept is. Your y-intercept is -7. Some of you guys may have seen this and thought, oh, that's a point and I have point slope, so I can put it into point slope form. You absolutely can do that, and once you're finished, if you do it or put it into slope-intercept form, you'll get the exact same answer. So you can either do slope-intercept form or you can do point slope form, and you're still going to have a correct answer. It does not matter which one you choose. But I just noticed it was like this, and to me this is easier. It takes a lot less work. So y equals m x plus b. So y equals your slope, x, and then your y-intercept goes here. So same deal for this guy. I need to solve for y. This one's really short, so I'm going to do it on here. I just need to move that x. So I have positive y equals negative 2x plus 5. So if I want it to be parallel, my slope needs to be negative 2, and my y-intercept is at 0, 4. 0, positive 4. So my y-intercept is positive 4. So y equals mx plus b. Y equals negative 2x plus 4. So we're finished with that piece. These guys right down here, we're doing the same thing other than now we don't have a y-intercept, we have a point. So we're going to have to do point-slope form. And notice it says write the slope-intercept form of the equation. So we're going to have to change from point-slope form to slope-intercept form. So when I write this, y is by itself, so I can easily tell that my slope is 1. And I'm going to use this point right here. So just a reminder, point-slope form, y minus your given y equals your slope times x minus the given x. So y minus the given y equals the slope times x minus the given x. And then I need to, like I said, put it in slope-intercept form, so that means solving for y. So I'm going to do distributive property first. And then I'm going to add 2 to both sides. Y equals 1x minus 1, because negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So same thing over here. I can easily tell that my slope is negative 4. So I'm going to write point-slope form. Y minus the given y equals the slope times x minus the given x. So since that was a minus there and I'm subtracting, x minus negative 2 is x plus 2. So again, I'm going to do just like I did over here, distributive property, and then I'm going to add that 5. So first with distributive property, I have negative 4x, and negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Then adding 5 to both sides, I have y equals negative 4x minus 3. And I'm done. This one right here, I'm going to have to solve for y first so I can even tell what my slope is. And I do run out of room on these, so I'm going to do it on here as well. So the equation that I am given is 3y equals 2x minus 3. In order to solve for y, I need to divide everything by 3. Y equals, and a lot of you are getting hung up on this being a fraction, and we like those to be a fraction. And then negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. So on here, my slope is 2/3. So my slope is 2/3. And I'm going to use point slope form. So y minus the given y equals the slope times x minus the given x. So x minus negative 3 is x plus 3. Now I'm going to do distributive property first. So y minus 4 gets carried down. 2/3 times x is 2/3 x. 2/3 times 3 is 2. If I'm multiplying straight across, 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. Then I add 4 to both sides. So I have y equals 2/3 x plus 6. Alrighty, this one right here, again, I need to solve for y. So I have 9x plus 3y equals 8. So moving that x first, just like we did before, I have 3y equals negative 9x plus 8. And then getting y by itself, dividing everything by 3. I want to isolate that y. So I have 1y equals negative 3x. And this doesn't really matter. All we're trying to get from this piece is the slope. So we can leave that as 8 over 3 if that's what you want to leave it as. So my slope here is negative 3. If it needs to be parallel, I'm also going to use negative 3. So now I have point slope form. Y minus the given y equals the slope times x minus the given x. So again with distributive property, negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times positive 1 is negative 3. If I move that 4, I have y equals negative 3x minus 7. So there's the end of us doing parallel lines. Now we are switching to perpendicular. And I don't know if you guys noticed, because I didn't until about 4th period, but every single one of these questions is the same numbers that we used on these questions. So when I go to solve for y on this equation and this equation, I'm going to kind of skip over that part on here, and we're going to go back to our previous work since they are so similar. So for these guys, I'm doing perpendicular. So up here, it tells me that they are opposite reciprocals. So I have a positive and a negative, and then my fraction has flipped. So if this one is, my slope is positive 1/2, I am going to use negative 2 over 1, or negative 2. So I have my slope, I have my y-intercept. Y-intercept is also negative 2. So slope-intercept form, y equals negative 2x minus 2. This guy, my slope is negative 4. Opposite reciprocal is going to be positive 1 over 4. And then my y-intercept is 3. So y equals mx plus b. And that's it. So for this guy down here, like I said, this is the same problem as this one up here. And we didn't show our work up here. I showed my work on this sticky, so it's coming back. And it's this guy right here. So when we finished y equals 3x minus 5, it's the exact same problem. So my slope on this one is positive 3. So my slope now needs to be negative 1/3. And my y-intercept is negative 7. So y equals the slope, x, and then your y-intercept. And we're finished. So that last one, like I said, the problems are going to be the same here and here. And we have that on our sticky. Oh, maybe we didn't. We just did that one on the paper. So I moved the 2x to the other side. Y equals negative 2x plus 5. So my slope here is negative 2. So my new slope, if it's perpendicular, needs to be positive 1/2. And my y-intercept says it's 4. So slope-intercept form, y equals 1/2 x plus 4. All right, working through again with perpendicular. The slope here is positive 1 over 1. So my new slope needs to be negative 1 over 1. And I have my point here. So point slope form, y minus the given y equals the slope times x minus the given x. But it wants it in slope-intercept form, so I'm going to have to solve. So distributive property first. Negative times a negative is a positive. Then I need to move my 2. So y equals negative 1x plus 5. Alrighty, this guy, my slope is negative 4. So my new slope needs to be positive 1/4. Writing point slope form, y minus the given y equals my slope times x minus the given x. And since the given x is negative, that's now a positive. It's the same as the previous page. This right here should look exactly like the previous page, other than the slope has changed. It's the opposite reciprocal now. So now solving for y, do distributive property first. 1/4 of 8 is 2. Y equals 1/4 x plus 7. Alrighty, so we have already done the work on this one. It's this guy right here. So 3y plus 2x minus 3, 3y equals 2x minus 3, gave me this slope right here, 2/3. So my opposite reciprocal is negative 3/2. So my new slope needs to be negative 3/2. And there's my point. So y minus the given y equals the slope times x minus the given x. And I'm going to do distributive property first. So if I multiply straight across, I have negative 3/2x, and then negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 18 over 2 is negative 9. And then I need to add 4 to both sides. So y equals negative 3/2x minus 5. On this guy right here, again, we've already solved that. It's right here. My slope ended up being negative 3. So my opposite reciprocal is positive 1/3. So point slope form, y minus the given y, so y plus 4 equals the slope times x minus the given x. And I'm going to do distributive property first. 1/3 x plus 1/3. Then take away 4. So y equals 1/3 x. And if I have negative 4 and I add a third, I'm just taking a third out of 4. So now I have negative 3 and 2/3. So minus 3 and 2/3. If you have minus 3.6 repeated, that's fine as well. Whatever it takes for you. Even if you have minus 11/3, that's fine as well. All right, so these last ones, we are just going to graph them and decide if they're parallel, perpendicular, coincide, or if they're just intersecting, so they just cross. So what I'm going to do is solve this guy right here. This one's already solved for y, so I can tell my slope is 3. I'm going to solve this one, and I'm just going to compare these two. If you want to, you can absolutely graph them to double check for yourself, but I'm just going to compare the slopes. So this first one, the slope is 3. Let's see what the slope is of the next one. So 9x minus 3y equals negative 6. I need to move my x first. Negative 3y equals negative 9x minus 6. Divide everything by negative 3. I have positive 1y equals positive 3x, and then right here is positive 2. Everything's negative divided by negative. So my slope on this one is 3. Slope is 3, slope is 3. They are the exact same. These are going to be parallel. We talked about that was the symbol for parallel. All right, 18. The slope on this one is negative 2. Let's check the slope of this guy. 2x minus 4y equals 8. I need to move my x first. So I have negative 4y equals negative 2x and a positive 8. Divide everything by negative 4. And I have 1y equals positive 1/2 x, and then a negative 2. So this second one, my slope is positive 1/2. So I have negative 2 over 1, positive 1 over 2. They're opposite reciprocals. They are perpendicular. I am going to leave it right there. I'm going to let you guys work these two out right here, but I like that we already had an example of a parallel and a perpendicular, and this video is getting kind of long. So go ahead and check yourself on this guy. We are not going to turn it in, but I just wanted you to have that extra practice because we will end up having a quiz on this, and I just don't want anybody to get lost. If you have any other questions, I will be in my classroom Monday before school. Come in here and we'll do them together. So even if it's these two guys down here, if you want some help, we'll do those together as well, or checking your graphs. All right, thanks guys. Bye.